So you did it. Yay, you said yes. Maybe not out loud, but maybe not to anyone else yet. But somewhere inside of you, in that quiet, honest place, you agreed with the ant last week. You decided enough waiting for a better season, enough already. I'm going to begin. You're going to begin. You're going to begin where? You're going to begin where you are with what you have. And I want to talk to you today about what happens next because here's the thing that nobody warned me about. And maybe somebody has warned you and maybe you didn't take heed, but I am going to warn you about it right now because I don't want it to catch you off guard the way it has caught me off guard. The moment you decide, okay? Decide is a very important word here. Not choose. Choose something means to pick one. To decide means to cut off other options. But the moment you decide to say yes to the thing that God has been whispering in your ear about, another voice is going to show up. And it's not a friendly voice. Sounds friendly, but it's not. Um, the voice does not sound like the ant. The ant's voice is patient and steady and warm. The this voice is louder, harder, harsher, faster. Yeah, faster. It dresses itself up as your own thoughts, which is what makes it so hard to catch because it sounds like you. Yeah, only a little bit meaner. And some of you know exactly what I'm talking about because that voice already has showed up once you decided to do something, once you decided to be obedient, once you decided to show up somewhere, once you decided, it showed up between you closing that last episode and opening up this episode or listening to this episode. It said something like, well, who do you think you are? What makes you so special? Why should anyone listen to you? That one is really familiar to me. Like, why should anybody listen to you? You're not special. Have you seen how many other people are already doing this? That that's the one that is so prevalent. It's that voice. That's why you should be more aware of it because it's so prevalent. And it's prevalent because it sounds right because there are a lot of people that's doing what you do. But they don't have your experience, they don't have your voice, they don't have your assignment, they don't have your gifting, they don't have your uniqueness, they don't have your calling. So, friend, my sister, whoever you are listening to this podcast or watching me right now, if that voice has been talking to you this week, I need you to stay right here with me because today we're going to face that voice today on this episode. We're going to name it, we're going to expose it, we're going to expose the lie underneath. And by the end of this episode, you're going to have a real practical tool to answer it. So stay with me. Welcome back to the Organizedpreneur Podcast, the show where we believe that an organized home, an organized space, an organized business opens up the pipeline for God's creativity, the creativity that He has placed in you. I am your host, Aldreama Harper, and I'm so glad you pressed play today. If you are new here, let me tell you exactly who I am talking to and what I do. I am talking to the podcaster, the service based entrepreneur, the coach, the consultant, the woman who is building something real with a real budget. Yeah, a real schedule. Yeah. I am an efficiency architect and fractional COO for podcasters and service-based entrepreneurs, which means I help you build systems and the operations that actually make your business run so smooth, smooth like chocolate that you can stop drowning in the day-to-day operations and activities and start building something. Start building the business and the life and the dream that's inside of you. Now, if you're jumping in fresh today, let me quickly get you kind of caught up because we're in the middle of a teaching series based on my upcoming book, The Widow, the Ant, and the Algorithm: How to Start a Business with What's Already in Your Hands. And last week on episode 217, we met the ant, the tiny little unlikely teacher who exposes the lie of someday and wakes us up to the season we're actually standing in. And if you haven't heard it, go back to the previous episode and take a listen. But today we're facing that voice. Yeah, we're facing that voice. And here's where we're going. So there'll be a part one and a part two of this episode entitled Finding or Facing the Voice That Asks, Who do you think you are? First, we're going to unmask that fear voice because you can't defeat what you can't name. Okay? Second, I'm going to walk you through the four faces the fear voice wears. So you'll be able to recognize it the next time it shows up. And then third, I'm going to give you the simple 2-column exercise straight out of the book that pulls this whole fear conversation out of the shadow and into the light where it belongs. Okay? So I want you to grab a pen and paper if you can. If you're driving, please drive safely. Don't do that right now, but just come back. And so, if you're ready, let's go. So, let's start with what the voice actually is, because I promise you this: once you see it clearly, it loses half of its power. Half of its power. The voice that shows up in the moment you decide to begin has a very specific job. It's not there to keep you safe, even though it will tell you it is. It's not there to help you make a wise decision, even though it will pretend to do so and pretend that it is there for that purpose. It's actually a job to keep you small, to keep you exactly where you are, to make sure the version of you that God is calling forward never arrives. And here is what I really need you to hear about this voice: it's the loudest, right before your biggest step of obedience, not before your smallest one, right before your biggest one, which means, are you ready for this? If that voice is roaring at you right now, it's not because you're on the wrong path. It's very possibly because you're on the exact path that you should be on. The fear voice is fascinating. It's a fascinating liar because it uses your own past to attack your future. It reaches back into every unfinished thing, every time you fall short, every insecurity you carry, and it holds them up in front of you like evidence. Like, see, look at this. Who do you think you are? But hear me. God does not call the qualified, He qualifies the call. And every single woman in scripture who's ever entrusted with a real assignment has a moment where she felt entirely unequal to it. Everyone. Sarah, She laughed. You remember Sarah. Mary questioned. The widow, who we're going to be talking about later in this series, she just flat out said, I don't have anything. I have nothing. And God met every one of them, not by scolding them for the doubt, but by handing them the next step anyway. That's so important. So important. I remember when I was, and this I'm not sure if this is the best example that I can give you, but I remember when I was paralyzed with fear. I was getting ready to go to a funeral actually, and so I had to drive, had to fly in to a small airport and then drive. Now this place is in Louisiana, and in Louisiana there is this huge Huey P. Long Bridge, a huge bridge that you have to cross over. You have to drive over in order to get to the other part, going to Raceland, which is where I grew up. So I remember the night before, I had these visions of this huge bridge that was like, it was so big, like it was in my mind. I had made up the fear, the anxiety, because that's the kind of fear that we're talking about here. We're not talking about the fear that protects you. There's a fear that protects you, but there's a fear that is anxiety. It's like it's not it's past fear. It is an anxiety. Okay. And so I had I didn't sleep that night before because I kept thinking about this bridge that I had to drive across, because I kept seeing the times growing up as a child when we had to cross over that bridge, and that bridge always seemed humongous to me because I was a little girl. I wasn't driving, but we had to cross that bridge in order to get to New Orleans. I didn't sleep the night before. Now I had to drive, so I flew into the airport, New Orleans, Kenner to be exact, got the rental car. And I mean, when I tell you I was scared because I didn't get any sleep the night before, and I had this huge vision in my head about this bridge. And to make a long story short, when I got to the bridge, it was so small compared to what was in my mind. I got mad. I was like, wait a minute. This bridge is not as large and as huge or as humongous as I had made it up in my mind. That was anxiety. That was anxiety. And so that may not, that may seem like a different story, a different event, but it's the same premise. Fear, when it becomes anxiety. I was having these anxious thoughts about this. So the first thing I want to do in this episode is I want you to stop being surprised that the fear voice is there, and stop treating its presence as a sign for you to stop. If I had stopped, I never would have made it to the funeral, right? It's stop being surprised that the fear voice is there, okay? Cuz it's coming. And stop treating its presence as a sign that you should stop. Its presence is often confirming that you should keep going. So I kept going. And I know, the scripture that's most familiar in your head, mine too. First, Second Timothy chapter 1, verse 7 says, For God has not given us the spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. That's the key thing. That's the key thing that tells me it's talking about anxiety. Because at that point, when I had this huge bridge in my mind, it was not sound. I wasn't thinking, it was anxiety taking over, taking residence in my head. And I want so read that one more time. Go to the scripture, read that one more time. For God has not given us a spirit of fear. That's the difference. But of power and of love and of a sound mind. Second Timothy 1 verse 7. And so that's important. It is the spirit of fear that's speaking to you. It's not coming from God. It's not coming from God. And so he gave you the power, the love, and the sound mind. And anything that's roaring at you says and that says the opposite of those three things is not the author of your calling. It's trying to interrupt him. Now, let me be practical for a moment because I want to get into two of the four faces of the fear voice. Okay, two of them. And then we'll come back with part two of this episode. The fear voice is smart. It does not always show up shouting, "Who do you think you are?" Because now we're applying this to, your calling and your assignment and things of that nature. Most of the time is very subtle. It's much more subtle than that because it dresses, hear me, it dresses itself up in a language that sounds reasonable, wise, even humble. And that's what makes it so dangerous. So what I want to walk you through the four faces that I see the fear voice wearing most often, especially with the woman or the women that I coach, that I have coached in the past, and who's building podcasts and service-based businesses and things like that. And as I name each one, I want you to notice and pay attention to which one feels the most familiar, because you, trust me, at least one of these is going to feel familiar to you. All of them feel familiar to me. Okay. So I want you to notice that the one that feels most familiar, and which one made you sit up a little straighter and think, I know that one. That's the one I want you to pay attention to. But not just pay attention to, I want you to know how to answer. So we're going to talk about these two. Number one, the comparison voice. This is the voice that scrolls with you. It looks over your shoulder while you're on Instagram or listening to another podcast, and it whispers, "Look, she's already doing what you're thinking about doing." When I tell you that's so familiar to me, oh my gosh, she's already doing what you're thinking about doing. She's better at it. She's further along. She has more followers. The world doesn't need another one of you. Now, hear me carefully, ladies and gentlemen. Is that true? The world doesn't need another one of you? And guess what? The world is not getting another one of me. The world is getting me. I'm unique. I'm unique in my calling. I'm unique in my assignment. I'm unique in my gifting. I'm uniquely made, created by God for a specific thing, even if it looks like something that someone else is doing. And that voice that says that is a lie. It treats your calling like a leftover slice of pie. And how many of you know that in God's economy, there's no such thing as a pie? There's no such thing as a pie economy. Like, if she got hers, then there's less for you. Like, if I breathe in oxygen, there's less oxygen for someone else to breathe. What? But your assignment is not a slice of anything. It's a holy, separate thing that only you can carry. Only you. It's not a slice. She's not doing my assignment. She's doing her assignment. And the woman waiting to hear your podcast, your service, your voice, she's not the same woman listening to hers. You're not too late. As a matter of fact, you're not late at all. You're not behind. You are exactly on time for the person that God is calling you to send to you. So that's the comparison voice. Okay? That's face number one. Face number two, the qualifications voice. I know that one sounds familiar because it's familiar to me as well. This is the sneaky one because it sounds so responsible. It says you can't launch until you have another certification, until you have gone to take this training, unless you have these credentials. You need one more course, you need one more program, you need more years of experience. Eh, wrong answer. But I'm going to be gentle. There's nothing wrong with training. There's nothing wrong. Please get trained. Please and thank you. Get certified where it matters. But most of us are not actually being wise when we say this to ourselves. We're being scared. We're using the language of preparation to disguise procrastination. And it works really well. It feels good too. The credential is not the calling. The calling is the calling. The credential is a tool. And the ant does not wait until she has every single grain in perfect condition before she starts gathering. She starts with what's already available. Let that sink in. I'll give you a moment. I'll even wait. But I want to stop there because the other two voices I'm sure will be familiar to you. We'll talk about in part two of this series, or of this specific episode. We'll talk about it. There are two more voices that I want to go over, but we're going to save that for the next episode because I didn't want this to be too long. Okay, so in the meantime, I want you to at least get to a place where you recognize those two voices. And in part two, I'm going to show you and help you with a practical tool in terms of how to not only recognize them, but what to do with those voices. So we'll talk about that in the next episode. So I always like to leave you with a scripture. First Corinthians chapter 14 and verse 40 says, let all things be done decently and in order. And that includes the noise inside of your head, the fear voice that does not get the last word. God does. And he already has spoken over your life. Remember that an organized home, an organized space, and an organized business opens the pipeline for creativity. And I'll see you on the next episode. Part two. Bye for now. With a plan, never petty, dropping gems, got my thoughts feeling heavy. Podcast launch pad where the dreams take flight. Entrepreneurial spirit out of sight, out of mind. Every episode, knowledge taking flight. Getting organized, keep the hustle tight. All dreamers got the wisdom, breaking it down. Clarity and